Good morning. Welcome to a new day. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad that you are too. So I was out for my walk this morning and just thinking over the highlights of what's been going on in my life, and wanted to share them with you. And it's been on my mind quite a bit, actually, my lifestyle and my choices over the last couple of years. I am having the opportunity to stay at a friend's house and helping out, taking care of her plants and just her space. And it's been such an interesting experience because I have had the opportunity to realize that my decisions over the last couple of years to simplify my life, I've been able to become even more rooted and grounded in those decisions from staying at her place and realizing that downsizing my life, basically, and reprioritizing my life. So by downsizing, right, the method to the madness started with deciding there were things in my life that I was not okay with. In fact, there were things in my life that I was really dissatisfied with, and that I let it get to a point where I was so dissatisfied that I was no longer excited to be living. I got up in the morning with a sense of I'm not happy to even be waking up, let alone getting out of bed, and dragging through the day, going through the motions. You know, it's funny when I think back to being at work in the job that I was in, I went to the bathroom like 4 or 5 times during the day, which is more than I would normally go, but it was like my reprieve. It was like my moment to escape the reality that I found myself in those few moments. And I share that because since doing all of the research I've done in the last couple of years on people finding themselves in a similar situation, it's actually kind of common that people use the bathroom as their escape moment when they're in the state of miserable that I was in. So anyway, being so unhappy and dissatisfied and feeling so overcome with all the expectations that I thought I had to do. And once I got to that point, I describe it sometimes as feeling like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. Once you get to that point, it's like, okay, there's only a couple of decisions. There's only a couple of options at this point when life has gotten so not good inside of your own head and you're feeling so dissatisfied and miserable and dark and alone, strangely, intensely alone, even though I have amazing family, amazing friends, huge network of people. To still have felt so alone inside of my mind and inside of my heart, to feel that sense of deep loneliness. And so I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, and it's okay, we've got a couple of options. And I knew for me, I could see the better life out up ahead of me, but it was so out of my reach, I couldn't touch it. And it's so funny to say that, even though I've told my story 1,000 times, it's still funny to say it because I had everything. I had a super nice house, very well-paying job, all the stuff you could need, the money to be able to buy whatever stuff I wanted, to go do whatever. And yet, it was just such a deep loneliness inside of me. I just couldn't enjoy life anymore. The things that I used to love doing, like reading and stealing away to the beach early in the morning to sit and watch the sunrise and drink vanilla latte from Starbucks, those moments were just gone. They left. I had no more motivation to do them. And so it just got to that point where it was like, okay, I can keep doing this life that I have signed up for inadvertently and agreed to, or I can decide to do something totally different. I can decide to end this part, like end this life the way that I know it and the way that I've been doing it, and I can radically shift and do it differently. I don't know how I'm going to do it or what it's going to look like, but I know that I am smart enough to be able to figure it out. It's really about having a sense of permission to be able to do it that I needed so desperately, and I remember, again, like being a leader and an executive, and yet at the same time feeling this deep level of insecurity and uncertainty about like, could I really sell my house? Could I really quit this job? Like, that seems crazy and goes against like everything I've ever been taught. I mean, everything I've ever learned in my world, growing up in every direction, was be grateful for what you have. Be grateful that you've made it this far. Be grateful for the money that you're making, the things that you have, and stay put. And really, like, generally the message is stay, always stay. And, you know, it's not like any one particular teaching or any one particular communication. It was like an overall big picture theme that was taught to me to stay and to be devoted and loyal and committed for life. You know, a lot of that came from my upbringing in the church, certainly, and so much around just the teachings around marriage and the teachings around family and the way that a family should run had a lot of implications that ended up bleeding out into all areas of my mind. And certainly 20 years ago, the belief was to stay in a job forever, that's how you had security, that's how you had certainty with your employment. Anyway, so the exciting part for me is being that person, super responsible and checking all the boxes, doing all the right things, and still getting to a point in life where I'm like, man, this is like so not me. This is just not me. Like, part of it is me, obviously, because I was doing it, and part of it is so not me, and I am so not okay with living this life for the next 40 years. I just need a different level of expression to be myself and to have less pressure, less expectation, less like big responsibility feeling. It's still hard to describe in all the fine details exactly, but I know that you know what I'm talking about, because it's a very deep and intense feeling to have. And when you feel like you've been contained and caged, if you haven't read the book by Glennon Doyle called Untamed, you absolutely must, because if you resonate at all with my story this far, that book has helped me even more, has helped me to get free in my mind even more than I have been so far. To really like understand the intricacies of how learning certain things over a time period as a child and growing up, the sense of like being contained and caged, right? I just wasn't a compliant, obedient, go along with child. I had this like incredible energy and enthusiasm and creativity and insane curiosity that just drove people crazy. This insatiable need to know and to explore and to figure out more of it and understand it better. It could not be contained. It could not be contained. Bless my mother for trying to contain me and make me into, you know, a well-mannered, polite, pleasant person, which she did a pretty good job at, in spite of our constant conflict at my wanting to be free and to wanting to be that untamed cheetah. So, my message for you today is that you can become that untamed cheetah 100%. It's scary. It's terrifying. I have moments where I still feel terrified and uncertain, but I am the happiest I have been in my entire life. I am the happiest that I've been in my entire life. And it's taken 42 years, almost 43, to get here. And like I said, the process has been super scary to go through, like, all of my belongings and downsize, and to make radical shifts, planned radical shifts, but to make them, take these huge leaps. And now life is the way I had wanted it. Without even knowing what I wanted, life is now the way I had wanted it. And so I think that's a huge part of the journey, and the huge benefit for me to working with somebody and having multiple experts around me. One unusual and surprising expert that came back into my life a few years ago now, to really help me get clear on what I most wanted, and how to do it, how to make it happen. And so began the journey of searching through literally all of my beliefs, questioning all of them, and really digging in deep to the reality that I can change those beliefs. I don't have to hold on to those beliefs just because I've had them forever. I can actually decide to radically do them different if I want to. And I do. So, and I have. And I'm still doing it. This will be the journey of the next 40 years. If you can relate to my story, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to comment or reach out to me, and I would be honored to support you. All right, you guys, have an absolutely amazing day. As always, thank you for sharing space with me. And until we meet again, go do that thing you most want to be doing today. And I'll talk to you soon.